So welcome back to Run, Knit, Read, Repeat, where I say I talk about books, crafts and running, but I haven't shown you any crafts yet and I can't do any running updates because I'm rehabbing an injury. So yikes, we're gonna have to talk about books again today, so sad. I am wearing a hand knit today. This is the Mixed Rib Cami by Florence Miller and it is one of my favourite patterns ever. So maybe that counts for something, but we are talking about books today, so I hope that's okay. I'm going to be showing you my June reading wrap up, and to be honest, it's nothing short of a miracle that I'm actually doing that because I felt like I was in a reading slump for probably the first half of the month. I don't actually think I picked up a book until about the 14th of June. It's a complete miracle that we got any books out of June, but I did manage to finish 5 books and I DNF'd one. So I thought I would show them to you today, or tell you about them actually. I don't have any of the physical copies with me because the 2 books that I did read physically, I've already passed on, and the other books I read on my Kobo, so I don't have the physical copy of those. So yeah, let's kind of chat around the books. I did want to start off just by kind of showing you a rundown of the genre breakdown. So I track my stats on Storygraph, which I've been on for years. It was another YouTuber, Lena Norms, had actually put me on to Storygraph. I say put me onto it. It wasn't a personal recommendation. She recommended it in a video a few years back, and I switched at that point from Goodreads to Storygraph, and I love it. And I'm loving it even more now that it has the link with Kobo, because so it's only been happening for like a week, but now anything that I read on my Kobo automatically updates on my Storygraph, so I don't have to do any manual updates for books that I'm reading digitally. It's only if I'm reading like physical books, or if I read audiobooks or listen to audiobooks, but I don't tend to go down the audiobook route just because if I'm listening to something, it's probably a podcast. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that Kobo link. Anyway, so the genre breakdown, I was really surprised to see that thriller wasn't top of the list, primarily because it usually is top of the list for me. So it was quite interesting to see that it was a different breakdown. So obviously we've got contemporary being top of the list. Maybe that is partly why I had a bit of a meh month reading. I didn't have any 5-star books this month, which was really sad, but yeah, there were books that I enjoyed. It was a slightly different kind of genre selection than I would have normally gone for. I do like to read mixed genres, but I do tend to have more thrillers than anything else. So maybe that's partly why I didn't have such a good month reading. Anyway, let's get on to how I actually rate my books before I kind of go into the reading wrap up. I won't do this in every wrap up video, but I'm conscious this is my first one, and I'm someone who really struggles with kind of arbitrary rating systems. So even if the doctor is like, oh, rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10, I can't, because I've got nothing to compare that to. So I tend to have like specific criteria for what is going to be like a 1-star, 2-star, so on and so forth. I do still use kind of the quarter stars on Storygraph as well. So if I'm kind of in between, then I will use those, but generally I kind of stick to the 1 to 5-star system. So 1-star books for me are books that I've just actively hated for whatever reason. There could be a number of reasons that I've hated the book, and it's usually one that I've hated so much that I end up DNFing because I am blessed with a short attention span and a brain that focuses on interest rather than just because I'm telling myself I need to read this book because I've started it. So if it's a book that I'm actively hating and I DNF it, I tend to not rate it anyway, but the books I hate fall into the 1-star category. But I don't like to rate books that I haven't finished, so I tend to just not rate anything 1-star because chances are I've not actually been able to finish reading it. 2-star books on the flip side are books that I didn't like. Usually they're books that I actually actively disliked, but they at least kept me engaged enough to want to see where it was going, and chances are it probably just didn't go anywhere good. 3-star books for me are books where it was okay, like I had an alright time reading it, there were elements of it that I enjoyed. Perhaps it was a book that actually kept me really engaged and I was really enjoying it, but there were large plot holes or there were other issues with the book, maybe like some problematic themes or something that I didn't think were handled particularly well. So if it's a book that I have enjoyed but there were elements of it that I didn't like, then I tend to give it 3 stars. 4 stars, on the other hand, are books that I've really enjoyed, I've had a great time reading, and they've usually kept me pretty gripped throughout. whilst 5 stars are books that effectively take over my entire personality. They become part of my personality for a while, and they're books that have probably made me cry as well. So I'm a crier. Let's just get that out there. I cry about everything. I cry happy tears, I cry sad tears, I cry all the time. I like to let my emotions out. And if a book has made me cry, it's usually because it's touched me in some way, shape or form. So chances are if a book has connected with me that much, then it's usually either the story has connected with me or I've perhaps felt seen by the characters and I have sobbed my little heart out. So usually if a book has made me feel like that, it's probably going to be 5 stars. Anyway, I've spoken long enough, so let's actually get started on the books. So the first book was actually for my in-person book club, and it was Meat Market by Laurie Penny. So I'm going to pull up the blurb for you. I'll just chat you through it, because I DNF'd this book pretty early on. Actually, I think I DNF'd it maybe 30% through, perhaps. I can't remember exactly what percentage through I was, but again, I was reading it on my Kobo and I DNF'd it pretty quick. It's a book that I should have liked. It was described as being about feminism and about the issues with capitalism and how that impacts women and how women's bodies are effectively products under capitalism. And that is something that would have been right up my street, or should have been right up my street, because I'm fascinated by those topics and I love talking about the issues with modern capitalism, but this book just really didn't hit the mark for me at all. So, sorry, I was loading the blurb and then just started blabbering on about everything else. So, it says, modern culture is obsessed with controlling women's bodies. Our societies are saturated with images of unreal, idealised female beauty, whilst real female bodies and the women who inhabit them are alienated from their own personal and political potential. That's true, I agree with that. Under modern capitalism, women are both consumers and consumed. Meat Market offers strategies for resisting this gory cycle of consumption, exposing how the trade in female flesh extends into every part of women's political selfhood. Touching on sexuality, prostitution, hunger, consumption, eating disorders, we will come on to the eating disorder point, housework, transsexualism, and the global trade in the signs and signifiers of femininity, Meat Market is a thin, bloody sliver of feminist dialectic dissecting women's bodies as the fleshy fulcrum of capitalist cannibalism. Meat Market actually said that having an eating disorder was inherently a feminist act. No, it's not. No, it's absolutely not. Eating disorders are very real problems and they're not inherently feminist. So it doesn't matter what way you want to spin that. That is absolutely not the message we should be pushing in any kind of books. I get what the author was trying to say with that, but it was just absolutely bang out of order. And the book had already irritated me for a number of reasons prior to that. The group chat that we have for book club, we were all already talking about how much we really disliked the book. Then it got to that point and I thought, if I continue reading this, I'm actually just going to be filled with a visceral rage. So I decided to DNF it, and actually I hated it so much that I didn't even go to book club. I didn't want to actively discuss that at the time because I was just so angry about it. So that was Meat Market by Laurie Penny. I do not recommend it. It was only about 70 or 80 pages and I couldn't even finish that because it was so bad. So do not recommend reading that. The next book I read was also a book club book, and it was The Midnight Train by Matt Haig. And I always get those two mixed up, which is so frustrating because I have very different thoughts on them. So I will pull up the blurb for that. That was for the book club that I'm part of on YouTube, or one of the book clubs that I'm part of on YouTube. It was for Carly's book club at the Pastel Bookshelf. And unfortunately, I missed the actual book club chat for that one because it was on a Saturday and I had given myself heat stroke by building garden furniture in the heat that morning. So I missed not only that book club, I missed What Michaela Reads book club, and I also missed my own barbecue that I was supposed to be hosting that night. So I didn't get to speak to anyone about this, and I have some thoughts on this as well. So, Midnight Train by Matt Haig, the blurb says, where is the blurb? Why is it not here? Here it is. When your life flashes before your eyes, what will matter most? For Wilbur, it was his time with Maggie, the love of his life, the honeymoon in Venice, before he threw it all away. Years later, on the brink of his own death, and a train arrived. No, that's not what it says. Years later, on the brink of his own death, a train arrives. Not and a train arrives. It can take Wilbur back in time to relive his most important moments. Soon he realises just how much he would have changed. An adventure through time, The Midnight Train is a story of love and second chances from the world of the Midnight Library. Now, in short, my thoughts are Matt Haig probably shouldn't have tried to enter his Midnight's era, because as much as I really like the Midnight Library, The Midnight Train just didn't do it for me. He should leave that to Taylor Swift. But yeah, maybe the Midnight Train is going to be someone else's Midnight Library. And it could also have been for the stage that I was at in my life when I read the Midnight Library. I really connected with that book. So perhaps I'm being a little bit harsh about the Midnight Train, but it just felt silly to me. There were so many parts of it where it just felt like he was trying to hit the word count rather than it actually being a relevant part of a story, or actually sharing anything that was going to be beneficial. If I ever hear the phrase old bean ever again, it will be far too soon. There was no need for the word bean to have been in that book as many times as it was. And it was just really frustrating. It was annoying because I quite liked the message of the book, so I did end up rating the book 3 stars, because although I'm saying how much it irritated me and it had, not a patch on the Midnight Library, for me at least, I did like the message behind the book. I didn't feel like the main character was particularly sincere, but I did really like the messaging behind the book, which was effectively saying, get your priorities straight long before you die, rather than just continuing to be a prick. So I did quite like that. There were some nice quotes in the book, but it just felt like an irritating added extra to... Hello, darling. Hello. It just felt like an irritating added extra to a series of books that actually could have just been a standalone. So yeah, I gave that one 3 stars. I didn't love that one either. We're clearly being joined. We've got company today. He was just sleeping over there and he has obviously woken up and decided, no, I want to get involved with this. So, sorry if you can hear him purring. Hello, darling. Are you saying hello? Look. Are you saying hi? Do you want to be on camera? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Am I okay to start speaking about books again? Eh? Can I start speaking about books again? I know, darling. I actually can't remember what I was speaking about. I think I was maybe moving on to my next book. He's now having a look at this bookcase. So the next book was Dissection of a Murder by Jo Murray, and I read that one for another book club. I promise not all my books were for book club, but that was for What Michaela Reads book club, and I'm really sorry, Michaela, if you're watching this, and I'm probably going to be run off the internet for this, but I know, thank you for being my little protector, much appreciated. And that's his butt. Lovely. What was I saying? Yeah, I'm probably going to get run off the internet for this. I didn't love Dissection of a Murder as much as I thought I was going to. A lot of people were saying it was the best thriller that they've ever read. It was their favourite thriller of the year. For me, there was a major plot hole and I just couldn't get past that. So the blurb for Dissection of a Murder, I can't remember how much... Sorry, he's scratching his chin now, bless him. I can't remember how much it gives away in the blurb. I don't think it says a lot, but let me just pull it open. I know, darling. Yeah, it says breathlessly compulsive courtroom drama with expertly crafted twists that you won't see coming. Lies, I saw it coming. The blurb for Dissection of a Murder says, a dead judge, a silent defendant, and a courtroom full of liars. When Layla Reynolds is handed her first murder case, she's not logged. She's shocked at how high profile it is. The murder of a well-respected, well-known judge. This shouldn't be the kind of case she's leading. It's way beyond her expertise, but the defendant, Jack Millman, is clear. He wants her and only her. To make things worse, he's refusing to talk. How is she supposed to prove herself on what appears to be an unwinnable case? Losing is not an option. She must find the most persuasive argument. Trials aren't won by convincing judges or fellow barristers. They're all about convincing a jury. Suddenly, Layla finds herself fighting not only to keep Jack out of prison, but also to keep her own secrets buried. It's true what they say, there are two sides to every story. Guilty or not guilty, you decide. Now, I should have known by reading the blurb what the twist was, and also what the ending was, because... Actually, if I say too much, then that's going to be spoiler territory. long story short, there was a plot hole and the ending was left open. And I don't like open endings. I don't like open endings. If I am reading a book, particularly a thriller that is a legal procedural thriller that's, I think it's over 400 pages, I at least want there to be a bloody answer at the end, and I don't want to be able to see the twist coming by like 20% into the book. So although it was a really engaging read, and although I did really enjoy the concept of it, the major plot hole that I picked up on really irritated me. The open ending really irritated me. And the fact that I could see the twist coming really bothered me, because whilst I was reading it, I kept thinking, well, surely the twist can't be that. Surely it can't be going there. And then that's where it went. So it was a bit of a bummer. I did really enjoy reading it, but then I was left disappointed by the overall outcome, I guess. So I rated that one 3.5 stars because, like I say, I enjoyed it. There were elements of it that just pissed me off, let's be honest. The next book that I read was Hunchback by, I think the pronunciation is Saou Ichikawa, but please, if someone does know the correct pronunciation, correct me if I'm wrong. And I find it in my local independent bookshop, loved the cover and thought, oh, I'll have a nosy at this. Read the blurb, loved the blurb, and thought it's probably going to have quite a lot to say in, you know, a short book. It's a fairly short book. So the blurb says, born with a congenital muscle disorder, Shaka Isawa has a severe spine curvature and uses an electric wheelchair and ventilator. Now, I love disability representation in my books as well, so that kind of sold me straight away. It says, within the limits of her care home, her life is lived online. She studies, she tweets indignantly, and she posts outrageous stories on an erotica website. One day, a new male carer reveals he has read it all. The sex, the provocation, the dirt, her response, an indecent proposal. And then it says a little bit about the author. So it says, written by the first disabled author to win Japan's most prestigious literary award and acclaimed instantly as one of the most important Japanese novels of the 21st century, Hunchback is an extraordinary, thrilling glimpse into the desire and darkness of a woman placed at humanity's edge. I rated this book 3.25 stars, and it's primarily because I really loved the premise of the book. I really loved the idea of the book. I felt like it could have been a really great book. But I think my expectations of that book versus what the author was trying to achieve with the book probably didn't align. And that's not the author's fault, and it's not necessarily my fault. It's just from what I read in the blurb and what I expected from the story, I just didn't get. Largely because it was an open-ended book, and I hate books where you're just left open-ended, where you're open to interpretation. The only book that I've read where we have been left open to interpretation that I've loved has been I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. And that book has lived like rent-free in my head for years since I first read it. But this book, I felt like it didn't need to be left open-ended. If the book had just been a little bit longer and told us the story, I think I would have enjoyed that a lot more. So again, didn't really love the book, loved the idea of it. I feel like it could have been a really, really beautiful book. It could have been a book that says a lot, but for me, it just kind of missed the mark. It's not that I wouldn't recommend the book. I do think that people should read it, but for me, it just didn't sit quite right. I wanted more out of it. I wanted to be able to connect with the characters more, and I've spoken to a few other people who have read this book in my own personal life, and they felt the same, which is a bit of a shame because it could have been such a great book. And the next book that I read was a thriller, and it was called Those People Next Door by Kia Abdullah. I'm just pulling up the blurb for this one. Now, I had that on my bookcase for about 3 years. I bought it when the paperback version, or that edition of the paperback, first came out, and I'm not really sure why I hadn't read it, because it was a thriller that also had a message, or at least I was expecting it to have a message based on kind of what the blurb had said. And normally I really like books that both are engaging, thrilling, and are saying something about like socio-political climate. And this one felt particularly relevant. So, like I say, it was Those People Next Door by Kia Abdullah. And the blurb says, you can choose your house, not your neighbours. Welcome to your dream home. Salma Khatun is extremely hopeful about Blenheim, the safe suburban development to which she, her husband, and their son have just moved. Their family is in desperate need of a fresh start, and Blenheim feels like the place to make that happen. And it says, meet your new neighbours. Not long after they move in, Salma spots her neighbour, Tom Hutton, ripping out the anti-racist banner her son put in their front garden. She chooses not to confront Tom because she wants to fit in. It's a small thing, really. No need to make a fuss. So Salma takes the banner inside and puts it in her window instead. But the next morning she wakes up to find her window smeared with paint. And then it says again, and prepare for the nightmare to begin. This time she does confront Tom, and the battle lines between the two families are drawn. As things begin to escalate and the stakes become higher, it's clear that a reckoning is coming, and someone is going to get hurt. Now, that to me sounded thrilling, and it was a really fast-paced, well-written book. I really, really enjoyed Kia Abdullah's writing, and I loved where I thought it was going. I did think that the ending, and again, there's not much I can say without being in spoiler territory, but I found that the ending almost was a bit of a disservice to the book and to the characters within the book. But I really enjoyed the reading experience. I really enjoyed the book itself. It was really fast paced. It had a lot to say, and I think it's particularly relevant in the UK political climate. But I just didn't love where the ending went. So it would have been a 5-star book for me. I knocked it down to 4 stars because I wasn't overly happy with where the ending went to, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, great book. Didn't love the ending, felt it was a bit of a disservice to the book, but it didn't ruin the book for me. It just, I would have taken it a different way if it had been me writing it, but it wasn't. So that's how it ended. Then the last book I want to talk to you about is a 4.5-star book, and I'm just going to pull up the blurb for this one as well because, oh my goodness. So it's Perfect Match by Jodi Picoult, or Picoult. I can never remember how you say her surname, so apologies if that's wrong. I don't think there's a book that she has written that I've read that I haven't enjoyed. So I knew I was going to enjoy this book anyway, because I do tend to enjoy her books. But it's also weird for me that my top rated book of the month is the one with the longest chapters, and I'm pretty sure my lowest rated book of the month was the one with the shortest chapters. And I'm normally a short chapter girly. I love short chapters because I just feel like it really works with my attention span. And normally if I look at my Kobo and it says 1 hour 9 minutes left in this chapter, I would normally want to bang my head against the wall. But this one just kind of kept me wanting to devour more and more and more of it. And I don't know if that's just the talent of Jodi Picoult or what it is that she does that makes me want to read these really long chapters, but she does it so well. But anyway, the blurb says, Assistant DA Nina Frost prosecutes child molesters, and in the course of her everyday work, she endures the frustration of seeing too many criminals slip through the system and walk free. So when she realises that her son Nathaniel has been sexually abused and is so traumatised that he has stopped speaking, she takes justice into her own hands. Nina Frost may have killed the man who hurt her son, but has she destroyed her family in the process, and whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? This book, oh my god, it was a tearjerker. It was so well written. Jodi Picoult, I don't know how she does it, but she manages to write these such just graphic, dark topics and handle them with such care and sensitivity. And I just love the way that she writes about things like these. Obviously it's a difficult read because of the subject matter, but it was just a fantastic book. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking, why didn't I give it 5 stars? Why didn't I? I just feel like I didn't have the 5-star feeling with it, but I did love it and I did cry. Although, yeah, it hasn't become part of my personality. Although I do feel like it would be very weird to have a book that was about child sexual assault and killing someone that assaulted your child as part of your personality. But that's just me. So yeah, I gave that one 4.5 stars. Would highly recommend it. Obviously, it's a dark topic, so if that's something that would trigger you, then please don't read it, but I would strongly recommend that. It's not my favourite of her books, I will say that. It's not top of the list of Jodi Picoult books that I have read, but it's a great one, and I don't want to say I had a great time reading it because you heard the blurb, you know what it's about. It wasn't a good time, but it was a great book. So yeah, so those are the books for June. I didn't actually read as much as I normally would because I was in a slump for the first half of the month, but some of the books that I read were great ones, others not so much, and some of them were just downright infuriating, either with no clear endings or just damaging messaging. So hopefully no more of that energy in July. I do have some exciting books that I'm planning to read in July. So if you haven't seen my July TBR video, then have a nosy at that. And I'm hoping, really hoping, that I'm going to be able to do some running updates soon as well, once I get the go ahead to start running when my glute isn't in agony. So if you're wondering what the injury is, I don't actually think anyone was wondering, but if you were wondering, I've had a sore arse for about 6 weeks, so hopefully that gets better. But yeah, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thanks very much for watching this. If you did watch it, let me know your thoughts on these books if you've read them, and let me know what you're reading next month, and let me know what you read last month actually, because I love finding out what people have been reading. Although if it's gonna put me into a bookshop, then maybe don't tell me, because I accidentally bought 15 new books today. And I know I said the other day that I'm on a book buying ban. Clearly that didn't happen. So there may be a haul coming as well. Just seemed to black out, and now I own 15 new books. So I need to chill out with the book buying, but it is what it is. So I'll see you next time. Bye.